Welcome to this week's edition of Church Chat. If you were with us last week, you know we're doing a little Bible study, pivotal moments in the Bible. And you may recall that last week we talked about that moment when Adam and Eve ate the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. After that point, everything changed. They were kicked out of the garden. Sin became dominant and their relationship with God changed. Now, if you thought ahead, you may have been wondering, wonder what the next pivotal moment is. And you may have thought, well, Noah, the great flood, that's pretty pivotal. And I almost picked that, but the more I read it, I decided that it wasn't as big a change as we might expect, because there was sin before the flood and there was sin after. And if you read through that section of Genesis, it basically tells how the earth was repopulated and gives some pretty negative press about the Canaanites. Even Noah gets involved in sin and debauchery. And so things really didn't change after the flood. So what I've chosen for our pivotal moment is with Abram. If you follow the genealogy of Noah and his sons and the on down, Abram was a descendant of Shem, the son of Noah. And so he is in a land called Haran, which is up around the Fertile Crescent, Tigris and Euphrates sort of area. And God comes along to him and suggests, hey, move to a new place and follow me. And I'll get to the covenant in just a minute, but at the start, there is no demand even for allegiance. The only request of Abram is to go to a new land, and God's going to bless him. God's going to give him new land, bless him with many descendants. And so all he has to do is go and show up. So again, I'm reading this out of the Hebrew translation by Robert Alter. And this section sounds pretty normal, although he does try to stick to the Hebrew phrasing. So let's hear what God has to say to Abram. This is chapter 12, if you want to follow along. And the Lord said to Abram, "Go forth from your land and your birthplace and your father's house to the land I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great. And you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and those who curse you I will curse, and all the clans of the earth through you shall be blessed." And Abram went forth as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot, that's his nephew, went forth with him, Abram being 75 years old when he left Haran. And Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his nephew, and all the goods they had gotten, and the folks they had bought in Haran, and they set out on the way to the land of Canaan. And they came to the land of Canaan, and Abram crossed through the land to the site of Shechem, very ancient holy site, to the Tenebreth of Moriah. The Canaanite was in the land. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your seed I will give this land." And he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. And he pulled up his stakes from there for the high country east of Bethel, and pitched his tent with Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. And he built there an altar to the Lord, and he invoked the name of the Lord. and Abram journeyed onward by stages to the Negeb. So hopefully you noticed that as I read through that, there was no talk of circumcision. There was no talk of particular sacrifices. There was no 10 Commandments. It was simply go to this new land and I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to make your name great. I'm going to give you lots of descendants, and eventually they will have this new land. So this is the start of the promise that God made to Abraham. And if you've read through the Old Testament before, you know that that promise was handed down from Abram to his son Isaac, then from Isaac to his son Jacob, and then on down to the people of Israel. And so this is our pivotal moment. Before Abram was in Haran, a different part of the world, goes to Canaan, and that is where their faith, their journey of faith, is centered from that point on. At first in Shechem, and then as we'll get to later on in Jerusalem. But it was a pivotal moment with the hope of the promise. Later on, the criteria for that promise is added on to, like circumcision, and they had to do certain things to sort of stay in God's good graces. But next week, we'll look at another change, and another spoiler alert, another hint is with Joseph and his journey to Egypt. So I hope you have a chance to reflect on this pivotal moment of when the promise was initiated with Abram, and he became the center of the Jewish faith for that time. And in fact, Abram is mentioned not only throughout the Old Testament, but even in the New Testament. Jesus mentions Abraham, Paul mentions him, the writer of Hebrew mentions him. So he is a prominent figure because the promise, the covenant, started with Abram. So that is our pivotal moment. Hope you've got your booster. Hope you're staying well. And I hope to see you next time on Church Chat.